Welcome back to MVM. Today I am bringing you a preview of Rocketmen, a new game coming from Phalanx Games that is going to put you in the role of a corporation trying to be the first to explore space using a deck building mechanic that is going to have you firing off rockets and trying to place objects into space around 3 different planetary objects. Now, like any standard deck building game, every player is going to start the game with a deck of cards. And these cards are going to represent the missions that you're going to be able to take on for your corporation. I do want to say that this is a prototype I'm using here. So the card artwork and the graphic design and the prototype components themselves are not final. So keep that in mind. But each player is going to get one of these decks of cards to start with, and they're going to get a player board. This player board is going to have everything you're going to need to hold your deck of cards, your discard pile, and your mission site. And your mission site is going to be where you place your active mission that you're trying to complete. In addition, you're going to have your launch pad coming off to the side here. That's going to hold all your launch cards. And you have your holding area, which is going to hold all the cards that you have played that turn. In addition, you're going to see the board here kind of laid out in front of me. And you're going to see that it is divided into 3 separate sections for those 3 planetary bodies. You have Terra, Luna, and Mars. In addition, you'll see the rocket track that snakes through the middle of these. This rocket track is going to show you the power of engine or rocket that you're going to need in order to reach these areas. And in addition, each one of these is going to have a certain number of planetary objects that can be left behind. So you're going to be sending manned missions, leaving satellites, even habitats on some of these areas. And you're going to do that by building cards into your deck. You're starting with your standard deck of cards that is going to have a variety of goals on them. You're going to see a number of cards with these matching symbols that are going to correspond to these different planets. When you're playing these missions, you're going to be able to choose which of the planets you're going to send them out to. Of course, some of these missions can only be sent to one planet at a time. Once a mission is complete, you're going to use that to score victory points, and that is the main way to climb up this victory point tracker here. Now, across the bottom of the board, you're going to see the row of cards that can be purchased. Now, there are 3 types of cards among that row. You're going to have your teal and your pink cards. These are going to make your basically tier 1 and tier 2 decks. Your tier 1 deck is stacked on top of your tier 2 deck, so you'll get to some of the more powerful cards later in the game. In addition, you have a number of crisis cards. These crisis cards are going to be mixed into these decks. You're going to have a few mixed into that teal deck on top and 3 times more actually dealt into that bottom deck. And you're going to stack those decks on top of each other to form your draw pile here, and you're going to lay out 6 cards. Those are the cards that can be purchased and added to your deck. Of course, anything you buy goes to your discard pile. So you'll see the anatomy of what a card looks like. You're going to have a cost of the card at the bottom, and in addition, some of the cards are going to require symbols or icons that have to be spent as well, in addition to the monetary cost. Cost is paid by playing cards out of your hand. And you'll notice a lot of the cards have symbols or monetary values in the upper corner as well. That is the benefit you're going to get when you play that card. And mixed into your starting deck, you're going to have a variety of both symbols and money that can be used to play cards. In addition, cards are going to have abilities. And when you're playing cards, you're either paying the costs of the card to use them for something else, or you are using the ability that's built into the card. And we'll talk about that here in a second. But on your turn, you're going to draw up to your hand of 6 cards, and you're going to play as many of them as you want. Now, what's unique here, different than most deck builders, is you can keep any cards left in your hand. So I can play as many as I want. I can discard cards, and then I always draw back up to 6 cards. Now, at the start of the game, you're going to have very basic missions to complete. But completing these missions requires rockets, and it requires money and symbols that are set aside in your launch pad. You're going to have to buy these throughout the course of the game. And if you see here, you'll have 3 different types of rockets. You have your small rockets, your large rockets, and your ion drive. These are going to give you a basic amount of engine. So you can have multiples of these in your deck that are going to help you when played to your launch pad. They'll help you get to your mission. And that's kind of the core of the game, is completing these missions. So anytime you want to play a card to your mission site or your launch pad, you'll have to spend $10. And again, you're going to see that printed on these cards. So for example, I might decide to spend $10 and achieve this satellite mission. Now, each mission is going to tell you a couple different things. For example, you could go to Terra, you could go to Luna, you could go to Mars. It's going to tell you how many cards you're going to draw from this Mission Complete deck here. And these Mission Complete cards are going to give you a variety of numbers, and that's going to show you how far you can move the rocket along in order to eventually get to your target. Of course, there are some zeros mixed in here, so the more cards you can draw by playing cards to your launch pad, the better chance you have of avoiding those negative cards. So after you've decided on a mission that sits in your mission site, you can play future cards to your launch pad. As long as they match the symbol of that card or just provide a rocket boost like those ion drives and rocket boosters there, you can play them off in your launch pad, of course paying 10, like I said, for each one of these cards. So at any point, you're going to decide to go on your mission, and that is kind of a key action on your turn. Once you decide you're going to go on the mission, that's it. You can no longer buy cards. You can no longer spend cards. Of course, everything you buy goes to your discard pile, so you can't actually buy cards and use them in your launch pad on the same turn. So once you've decided that your launch pad has enough cards, you can decide you're going to go on your mission. Now, you're going to look at all the matching symbols, and you're going to look at the rocket power that's present on here. You're going to take that rocket token, and you're going to have it set here at 0, but you're going to move it a number of spaces equal to your rocket power. So for example, you could start at 5. And then the card is going to tell you how many of these mission cards to draw. So for example, if I'm going to Terra, I draw 3 of these cards, and I look at the 1, 2, 3. For example, I have plenty to reach Terra. In fact, I could have gone much farther if I wanted to. And of course, these cards are shuffled back in afterwards, so you don't know exactly what you're going to get next time you go. Now, if the mission is successful, in which this case it was, we reached Terra, which was our destination, we're going to get to score our points. You're going to look at the type of card that you played. For example, this was a satellite, and it was a satellite that was delivered to Terra. So you're going to take one of your 6 player markers, and you're going to put it on the satellite marker. Now, since I was the first to place there, I'm going to get 1 victory point, and you'll take those points instantly. In addition, you're going to get a bonus for the rest of the game. That bonus is both printed above your board and also printed on the corner of your mission, so you know what your bonus is going to be. For example, this is a permanent 1 booster. So I get to take the 1 rocket booster that I have set aside to my supply and place it up here on my player board. You'll notice that there are this row of spaces on top of your player board to place those. Now, the mission itself is removed from the game, and I can no longer complete that mission even for a different planet. Now, anybody else that comes here is going to be able to, they'll still get their 1 booster, they'll just get 0 points for doing so. And you'll see that some of these are worth many more points, and as you start to go up to different areas, you're going to have much higher point values totally. Now, the first player to deliver to both Luna and Mars is going to get to take those tokens off the board, which are going to be worth extra victory points at the end of the game. So you'll notice as you're gaining points, you're going to be moving up the score tracker here. You'll see that there are a few orange spaces that link to these hazards. You'll see those exclamation points here on the player board. What that means is when you're playing the hazard, when you are paying to remove this hazard from the board up there, you're going to immediately get whatever victory points are printed on there, plus you have to pay the bonus that's printed here. So later in the game, you're going to have to pay more to get rid of these hazard cards, but they're straight up victory points that are going to be calculated at the end of the game. So paying to take those hazards and remove them from the row can be very beneficial for you. So I mentioned that your turn can end in one way, which is going on a mission. Now there are 2 other things that can happen during a mission. You can either choose to abort the mission early, or the mission can fail. If the mission is failed, then you're going to take all of your launch cards out. You're going to put them in your discard pile. You can keep your mission active if you want. You don't have to. You can always discard it. And then you can try again by rebuilding your launch pad from scratch. Or you can abort. So for example, if I'm drawing 3 cards and the first 2 cards I draw are both zeros, I'm not feeling like I have a good shot, I think I might end in mission failure and lose all my launch pad cards, I'm going to choose to abort instead. You look at the number of cards you've drawn, and you discard cards from your launch pad equal to 1 minus that. So if I look at my first 2 cards and think, I don't think I'm going to make it, I can abort. I only have to lose 1 card from my launch pad. I'm not risking losing that entire launch pad, which could happen if I actually fail that mission. Now there's another way that your turn can end. And you'll see here that you can buy these cards from the row, And as you buy them, you're leaving a blank space. This blank space is going to immediately be filled by a new card that's going to come kind of half off. And you'll see the little X here. And this can happen as you buy multiple cards. You may have multiple cards here with this X. Now, if I choose to buy any of these X cards, I can do that, but then my turn ends, everything else slides up, and that card is replaced as normal. It functions like this to stop you from just buying one card and letting that row refill over and over again and getting basically a luck draw into a bunch of cards you really need or really cheap cards. So the first new card you buy is going to end your turn, and doing the mission is going to end your turn as well. When that's done, like I said, you're going to keep any of the cards remaining in your hand and draw back up to 6 new cards. Of course, if you run out of cards, you're going to shuffle your discard pile as per normal deck building rules. So the goal of the game, of course, is to continue completing these missions and trying to place down your markers on all of these spaces. Now, as you're placing markers, you'll eventually come to having played your 5th or 6th marker. If a player plays their 5th marker and is in all 3 territories, they can choose to trigger the end of the game. Maybe they're not ahead on points. They don't want to do it on their 5th placement. They can place their 6th one. They can end the game on their 6th one as well. When they decide to do that, the game is going to end at the end of that round. In addition, if every one of these spaces is full on the board, meaning all of the first place spots for all of the different delivery options have been taken, then the game is going to end that way as well. In addition, there's one more way the game can end. You notice the orange symbols on the board here, but there also are these purple symbols, and this is going to determine how long the game is last based on how many players. So in a 4-player game, the first person to get to 18 points is going to trigger the end of the game. Now at the end of the game, you're going to look at where your points are, and you're going to add any of those hazards you managed to get rid of. In addition, at the beginning of the game, each player has 2 in-game objective points. Now, when you reach the end of the game, you get to decide which one of these 2 objectives you want to score. So you're working towards both of these, or you may decide early on to just focus on one. You're going to score those points as well. In addition, you may be given some extra points based on variance. If you look here on the board, you're going to see 2 spaces up here to play variant cards. Now, these variant cards, you can use 1 or 2 of them, and there are a wide variety to choose from. So using any number of these game variants or not using any variants at all is just going to give you a new way to play the game each time. You can just play a basic game without using any of these variants. You can also play a basic game without worrying about Luna and Mars, just kind of teaching the game by making Terra your only objective. So you can actually modulate the game length as well. So that is Rocketmen. The game will be coming out on Kickstarter pretty soon, if not already. So take a look at their Kickstarter page, see what all the final components, graphic design, and artwork is going to look like. And as always, come back here and please leave some comments, ask some questions. And as always, thank you for liking, subscribing, follow us, and watching us here at MVM. And I will see you next time.